My girlfriend cheated on me, and I found out about it in the most brutal way imaginable.
I, 25F, and my now ex-girlfriend, 26F, were together since we were 14 and 15 respectively. We were each other's first everything. Our relationship was a near fairy tale for the most part. She was the perfect girlfriend I could have asked for. A few aberrations over all those years in form of arguments, none your regular healthy couple couldn't relate with, and as infrequent as they could have come, are all that kept it from being a perfect relationship. To set the context, we recently celebrated her business's previous quarter's financials with a vacation in Mykonos. This was in early October, just over a couple of months ago. It was all perfect as perfect could be. Our relationship was in cruise control. It was all solid, right up until the end of October of this year. She used to surprise me with these weekend getaways, dates, and gifts. Nothing too fancy, but just about enough to make me melt. Then, none of it for well over a month, nada. She's initiated physical intimacy the most out of us both. She's always had a higher libido than I. Again, none of that for over a month. I had no reason to suspect anything and just brushed it off by attributing it to her work stress. She's been working her arse off for the past 6 years to build the aforementioned business that has finally started paying off its dividends. Of all these changes in the status quo of our relationship, what stuck out the most by far was an incident that happened earlier in November. She was out for a night of pub crawl with her girlfriends. Soho pub crawls are kind of a ritual with them, the usual chinwag over drinks. She wanted me to go along, but I couldn't as my local football, Soccer for Americans team was playing that evening, and being a season ticket holder, I rarely miss their games, if at all. That being said, I've joined in as well as sat out these crawls multiple times over the years. She's almost always acquiesced to me being at a football game over almost any event that's ever clashed with it. I get back home just around midnight after heading over to my sister's for a couple pints after the match. She texted me she'd be late and asked me to not stay up and that her friend, let's call her A, would drop her off. I stayed up anyway and texted A, who's their group's designated driver by the virtue of her sobriety, to drive safely. Imagine my surprise when A said my ex-girlfriend had left the crawl earlier and had informed her that she'd be taking a cab home. Much against her girlfriend's protests, her cab finally pulled up in front of our house at about 2 a.m. Went in for a kiss when she got back home. To my horror, she turned away and made her way to our bed and passed out. Never had she ever turned down a kiss from me up until at that point in time. I brushed it off to her being absolutely pissing drunk and let it slide. The next morning I asked her about returning home in a cab, even though A was supposed to be dropping her off. She responded by saying that she couldn't stay there any longer owing to a terrible headache, and decided to book a cab back home, so as to not want her girlfriends having to call it an early night. Now, it takes a maximum of an hour in peak London traffic to get over to our house from Soho. If her timeline is to be believed, she was in the cab for almost 4 hours. She could see me trying to piece it together but quickly went in for a kiss. My naivete, coupled with love, took over and I went on with the rest of my day without giving it a second thought. As December was upon us, I was supposed to travel to India, China, and Singapore on a business assignment. We'd never been away from each other for this long. She was distraught, but accepted me going away for that long after a night of us cuddling and crying our eyes out. The next few days were rough for us both. The time zone misalignment restricted us to a limited amount of FaceTime. On a FaceTime call, I saw what looked like a bra on the floor and immediately recognized it wasn't hers, owing to its color. I asked her about it and she tried to angle the camera such that it was no longer visible and deliberately moved over to that space and pointed the camera at the floor. Of course, it was no longer there. She has to have kicked it out of sight. My heart was trying its best to dispel any notions of some other girl being there with her, but my eyes wouldn't let me unsee what they saw. I couldn't sleep that night. I'd never gotten over her hiding that bra on the floor from my sight. By this point, doubt was starting to rear its ugly head in. My project was over almost a week before it was expected to. Decided to surprise her with an early homecoming. My cab from the airport was possibly the longest one I ever had to take, or at least it felt like it. All I was thinking of on my ride back home was her kiss I'd been deprived of for weeks, but I'd be lying if I told you I couldn't sense an impending doom in the back of my mind, thanks to that FaceTime call. I reach home with a box of chocolates and wine, let myself in without any noise so as to surprise her. All good up until this point, hear the shower running. I was in half a mind to join her in there but decided against it in favor of planting myself at the door and recording her reaction on my camera. Weirdly enough, our bedroom door opens and there she is wrapped in a towel, about to hit the shower. My mind couldn't comprehend why she'd left the shower and steam running before getting in. But then all pieces were beginning to fall into place when she saw me and her face turned pale in trepidation. Almost as if she were looking at a ghost and not the girl she's loved all this time. I yell, "Hey," and rush into her for a kiss. We kiss, but there's absolutely no reciprocation from her end. Here's how it played out after I pulled away and she was still looking at me in shock without saying a word. Me, "Babe, are you okay? Why are you looking at me like that and why's the shower running?" Her, "You were supposed to come back after Christmas." Words cannot express how gutted I was the moment she would utter these exact words after us being apart for weeks. Just as I was about to tell her I finished my work earlier than expected, I hear a girl's voice calling out her name from the shower. My legs started shaking at the very moment I slumped against the wall by the bathroom as it started to dawn upon me that the supposed love of my life, a girl with whom I'd envisioned growing old, was about to jump into the shower with another girl. She rushed in, asked the other girl to get dressed and escorted her out of our house. I barely got a look at the absolute vixen that turned my life upside down, the she-devil, for whom my ex-girlfriend decided to throw away over a decade of memories. She got down beside me and burst into tears, apologizing profusely. I pushed at that, she refused to stay away and came back in trying to wrap herself around me. For the next couple of hours, it was more of the same, her being apologetic, groveling and me crying to the point of passing out on the floor. She picked me up, put me on the bed and went out to fix me some tea. I locked her out and sunk back into the bed for another bout of tears, all this while her trying to explain her actions from the other side of the door. Now comes the worst part of it all. I found a ring with our initials carved onto it and a receipt towards down payment for the house we're currently renting, which made her digression hit harder. The girl, the love of my life, was about to make me hers for the rest of our lives. So close, yet so far. She admitted to having slept with the other girl, the absolute wretched woman she met with on that pub crawl on multiple occasions. She won't let me leave the house. We split the rent and instead moved out to the guest bedroom to give me space. I haven't so much as let her touch me ever since that fateful morning. She doesn't know that I know about her plan, or what's left of it, to propose me. I keep trying to get her to open up over why she'd sell our future for a meaningless fling, but all she has to say for herself is that she doesn't know why she did it. She's completely cut off ties with the other girl. I know for a fact that she was nothing more than a fling to her. Yet, I don't think I can ever get over a betrayal this immense. I am almost certain that I want to leave her. The only sliver of dread that's holding me back is the fact that I will never love any other girl the way I loved her. This could perhaps change, but if I were a betting lady, I'd not bet against it. There will always be that, what if I'd given her another chance, in the back of my mind, no matter which girl I end up with in the future, if at all. She seems to be truly remorseful of her actions. She's been an absolute peach of a girlfriend before this, arguably more so than I ever was. Makes me wonder if I'm to blame a wee bit. If I tagged along with her to the bloody pub crawl and she'd never have met the other girl. Has anyone here ever been betrayed by who they thought was the love of their life, and yet went on to live out that happily ever after? I'm dead inside and devoid of tears at this point as I write this and ask myself whether I was really not good enough for her. Feels like I've lost in life.